Narcissistic abuse is a form of manipulation and control that can leave you feeling confused, drained, and questioning your reality. Often subtle and hard to detect, it stems from individuals with narcissistic tendencies who prioritize their own needs at the expense of others. Understanding this abuse is crucial because it helps you recognize the patterns and take the first steps toward reclaiming your life. By becoming aware of the signs, you can break free from the cycle, rebuild your confidence, and regain your power. Narcissistic abuse is a deeply damaging form of manipulation and control that often leaves the victim questioning their reality and self-worth. It stems from individuals with narcissistic tendencies who prioritize their needs, desires, and ego above all else, often at the expense of those around them. At its core, this abuse is about power and control, manifesting in ways that may seem subtle at first, but grow increasingly harmful over time. The abuser's behavior is typically designed to confuse, belittle, and dominate the victim, creating a toxic dynamic that can be incredibly challenging to recognize, let alone escape. One of the reasons narcissistic abuse is so harmful is because it operates on a psychological level, exploiting the victim's vulnerabilities and emotional connections. The abuser often uses charm and charisma to draw people in, making them feel special, valued, or even indispensable. This initial stage, sometimes called love bombing, is intoxicating and creates a strong emotional bond. It's during this phase that the abuser gains the trust and dependence of their target, setting the stage for the manipulation to come. Once the victim is emotionally invested, the abuser gradually shifts their behavior, introducing criticism, manipulation, and control in ways that may not be immediately obvious. One of the most insidious aspects of narcissistic abuse is the way it distorts reality for the victim. Gaslighting, for example, is a common tactic used by narcissists to make the victim doubt their perceptions and memories. The abuser might deny things they've said or done, twist the truth, or accuse the victim of overreacting, creating confusion and self-doubt. Over time, this can erode the victim's confidence in their judgment, leaving them dependent on the abuser for a sense of reality. This dependency is exactly what the abuser wants because it allows them to maintain control. Another hallmark of narcissistic abuse is the abuser's ability to shift blame and avoid accountability. They might deflect criticism by projecting their own faults onto the victim or turning the conversation around to make themselves the victim. This keeps the victim on the defensive, constantly trying to explain or justify their actions, while the narcissist evades responsibility. In these dynamics, the victim often feels like they're walking on eggshells, afraid to say or do the wrong thing for fear of triggering an outburst or further manipulation. Narcissistic abuse doesn't only affect the victim's mental and emotional health, it can also impact their physical well-being. Chronic stress, anxiety, and depression are common among victims of this kind of abuse. They may experience insomnia, fatigue, or other physical symptoms as their bodies respond to the constant emotional turmoil. Over time, the toll of living in such a toxic environment can be devastating, making it all the more important to recognize the signs and seek help. One of the most difficult aspects of dealing with narcissistic abuse is breaking free. Victims often struggle with feelings of guilt, shame, or fear, which can make it hard to leave the relationship or stand up to the abuser. The emotional bonds formed during the love bombing phase, combined with the manipulative tactics used to control and undermine them, create a cycle that's hard to escape. The abuser may also use threats, intimidation, or other forms of coercion to keep the victim from leaving, further complicating the situation. However, recognizing the abuse is the first step toward freedom. Awareness allows the victim to see the patterns for what they are and begin to take steps to protect themselves. This might involve seeking support from trusted friends or family members, reaching out to a therapist, or educating themselves about narcissistic behavior. Building a strong support system is essential for healing and recovery, as it provides the validation and encouragement needed to move forward. Ultimately, understanding narcissistic abuse is about empowering yourself to break free from the cycle of manipulation and control. It's about reclaiming your sense of self, rebuilding your confidence, and realizing that you deserve to be treated with respect and kindness. While the journey may be challenging, it's also deeply rewarding, as it leads to a life of greater authenticity, freedom, and peace. Recognizing the red flags of narcissistic abuse is a critical step in breaking free from its grip. Narcissistic abuse often starts subtly, making it difficult to identify, especially for those unfamiliar with its signs. The abuser may present themselves as charming, attentive, and supportive, creating an initial sense of security and affection. However, this facade gradually fades, revealing a pattern of manipulation, control, and emotional harm. Learning to recognize these signs can empower you to see the reality of the situation and take steps to protect yourself. One of the most common signs of narcissistic abuse is the abuser's tendency to make everything about themselves. They dominate conversations, dismiss your opinions, and frequently steer interactions back to their needs or achievements. This self-centeredness often leaves you feeling invisible or unimportant, as your thoughts and feelings are consistently overshadowed. Over time, this imbalance can erode your sense of self-worth, making you question whether your needs even matter. The abuser's lack of empathy only exacerbates this dynamic, as they rarely show genuine concern for how their actions affect you. Another key red flag is the use of manipulation tactics, such as gaslighting. Gaslighting is a psychological tool used to make you doubt your perceptions, memories, and even sanity. For example, the abuser might deny things they've said or done, insist you're imagining things, or accuse you of being overly sensitive. These tactics are designed to create confusion and make you second-guess yourself, ultimately increasing your reliance on the abuser's version of reality. This constant questioning of your own judgment can be exhausting and isolating, leaving you vulnerable to further manipulation. Narcissistic abusers also thrive on control, often using subtle methods to dominate various aspects of your life. They might criticize your choices, belittle your achievements, or impose their preferences on you, gradually limiting your autonomy. In some cases, this control extends to your relationships with others, as the abuser works to isolate you from friends and family. By creating distance between you and your support system, they can maintain greater control over you and ensure that their behavior goes unchecked. A hallmark of narcissistic abuse is the cycle of idealization and devaluation. During the idealization phase, the abuser showers you with praise, affection, and attention, making you feel valued and loved. This phase can be intoxicating, creating a strong emotional bond that makes it difficult to see the abuser's flaws. However, this is often followed by a devaluation phase where the abuser becomes critical, dismissive, or even cruel. They may exploit your vulnerabilities, point out your perceived flaws, or blame you for their own shortcomings. This back-and-forth cycle keeps you off balance as you find yourself constantly trying to regain their approval and avoid their disapproval. Another warning sign is the abuser's unwillingness to take responsibility for their actions. Narcissistic individuals are often skilled at deflecting blame, twisting situations to make themselves appear innocent or justified. They might accuse you of causing their behavior, insist you're overreacting, or play the victim to elicit sympathy. This refusal to acknowledge their faults not only absolves them of accountability, but also shifts the burden onto you, leaving you to bear the emotional weight of the relationship. Narcissistic abuse can also manifest as a pattern of boundary violations. Abusers often disregard your boundaries, pushing you to accommodate their needs at the expense of your own. They might invade your personal space, pressure you into doing things you're uncomfortable with, or dismiss your attempts to set limits. This constant erosion of your boundaries can leave you feeling powerless and disrespected, reinforcing the abuser's control over you. It's important to recognize that these red flags often occur in combination, creating a toxic environment that can be difficult to escape. The effects of narcissistic abuse are profound, affecting your mental, emotional, and physical well-being. However, becoming aware of these signs is a powerful first step toward reclaiming your life. By identifying the patterns of abuse, you can begin to set boundaries, seek support, and take steps toward healing. While the journey may be challenging, the freedom and self-empowerment that come from recognizing and escaping narcissistic abuse are worth the effort. The emotional impact of narcissistic abuse on victims is profound and far-reaching. It often leaves individuals feeling drained, confused, and disconnected from their sense of self. This form of abuse is insidious because it targets the victim's emotions, gradually breaking down their confidence and self-esteem. Over time, the victim begins to internalize the abuser's negative messages, creating a cycle of self-doubt and emotional turmoil. The effects are not only deeply personal but can also extend into every aspect of life, including relationships, work, and overall well-being. One of the most significant emotional effects of narcissistic abuse is the loss of self-worth. Victims are often subjected to constant criticism, belittlement, and devaluation, which can make them question their abilities, intelligence, and overall value as a person. The abuser may use subtle jabs or overt insults to highlight perceived flaws, leaving the victim feeling inadequate and unworthy of love or respect. Over time, this erodes the victim's confidence, making them more vulnerable to further manipulation and control. Another devastating impact is the creation of emotional dependency. Narcissistic abusers often employ a pattern of giving and withdrawing affection, creating an emotional roller coaster that keeps the victim off balance. This push and pull dynamic makes the victim crave the moments of approval and affection, even as they endure periods of criticism and neglect. The abuser becomes the source of validation, and the victim may begin to feel that their worth is entirely dependent on the abuser's approval. This dependency makes it incredibly difficult for the victim to break free, as they may fear losing the little sense of worth they have left. Emotional exhaustion is another hallmark of narcissistic abuse. Victims often find themselves walking on eggshells, constantly trying to avoid triggering the abuser's anger or disapproval. This state of hypervigilance is mentally and physically draining, leaving the victim feeling perpetually anxious and on edge. The unpredictability of the abuser's behavior only adds to the stress, as the victim never knows what will set off the next outburst or bout of manipulation. Over time, this chronic stress can take a toll on the victim's mental and physical health, leading to issues such as insomnia, headaches, or digestive problems. Narcissistic abuse also has a profound effect on the victim's ability to trust themselves and others. The abuser's use of tactics like gaslighting can make the victim question their own perceptions and memories, creating a sense of confusion and self-doubt. This undermines the victim's confidence in their judgment, making it difficult for them to make decisions or trust their instincts. Additionally, the betrayal of trust inherent in narcissistic abuse can make it challenging for victims to form healthy relationships in the future. They may become wary of others' intentions, fearing a repeat of the manipulation and harm they've experienced. Shame is another powerful emotion experienced by victims of narcissistic abuse. The abuser often uses shame as a tool to control and silence the victim, pointing out their perceived flaws or mistakes in a way that makes them feel deeply embarrassed or humiliated. This shame can become internalized, leading the victim to believe that they are inherently flawed or unworthy. It's not uncommon for victims to blame themselves for the abuse, feeling as though they somehow deserve the treatment they're receiving. This self-blame only deepens the emotional wounds, making it even harder to escape the cycle of abuse. Isolation is another emotional consequence of narcissistic abuse. Abusers often work to isolate their victims from friends, family, or other sources of support, creating a sense of dependency and control. The victim may feel alone and misunderstood, believing that no one else can understand or help them. This isolation can exacerbate feelings of hopelessness and despair, making it even more difficult to seek help or envision a way out. Despite the profound emotional impact of narcissistic abuse, healing is possible. Recognizing the abuse and understanding its effects are the first steps toward recovery. It's important for victims to seek support, whether through therapy, support groups, or trusted friends and family members. Rebuilding self-esteem, learning to set boundaries, and practicing self-compassion are all crucial aspects of the healing process. While the journey may be challenging, it is also an opportunity for growth and empowerment, allowing victims to reclaim their lives and rediscover their sense of self-worth. The path to freedom from narcissistic abuse begins with awareness and the courage to take the first steps toward change. For many victims, this journey is not straightforward, as the effects of the abuse create emotional and psychological barriers that make breaking free seem impossible. However, each small step toward reclaiming control and autonomy is significant, even if it feels overwhelming at first. Understanding that freedom is achievable and taking deliberate action to move forward can lead to a life of empowerment and healing. Recognizing the patterns of abuse is the foundation for breaking free. Narcissistic abuse thrives on confusion and manipulation, often leaving victims doubting their own reality. Once you identify the tactics being used, such as gaslighting, blame shifting, or emotional withholding, you begin to see the dynamic for what it is. This clarity can be both empowering and painful, as it often involves acknowledging the extent of the harm done. However, awareness is the first step in dismantling the illusions created by the abuser and reclaiming your sense of self. Setting boundaries is a critical part of the journey to freedom. Narcissistic abusers often violate personal boundaries to maintain control, disregarding your needs and autonomy. Reestablishing these boundaries is an act of self-respect and self-protection. This might involve limiting contact, refusing to engage in arguments or manipulation, or asserting your right to make decisions for yourself. While setting boundaries can be met with resistance or escalation from the abuser, it is a powerful way to take back control and create space for healing. Seeking support is essential during this process. Narcissistic abuse often isolates victims, making them feel alone and disconnected from others. Reaching out to trusted friends, family members, or support groups can provide validation and encouragement. Sharing your experiences with people who understand can help you process your emotions and gain perspective on the situation. Professional support, such as therapy or counseling, can also be invaluable. A trained therapist can help you navigate the complexities of the abuse, rebuild your self-esteem, and develop strategies for moving forward. Emotional detachment is another key aspect of escaping narcissistic abuse. Abusers often use emotional manipulation to maintain control, exploiting your feelings of love, guilt, or fear. Learning to detach emotionally doesn't mean becoming cold or unfeeling. It means recognizing that your emotions are being used against you and taking steps to protect yourself. This might involve reminding yourself of the patterns of abuse when you feel tempted to engage, or practicing techniques to remain calm and composed during interactions. Over time, this detachment can help you regain clarity and strength. Reclaiming your sense of self is a transformative part of the healing journey. Narcissistic abuse often leaves victims feeling lost, as their identity becomes entangled with the abuser's expectations and criticisms. Rediscovering who you are outside of the abusive relationship is a powerful step toward freedom. This might involve reconnecting with hobbies, interests, or passions that were sidelined during the relationship. It also means learning to trust yourself again, building confidence in your abilities and decisions. As you reconnect with your authentic self, you'll find that the hold the abuser had over you begins to weaken. The process of leaving an abusive relationship can be complex and may involve practical considerations, such as finding a safe place to live, managing finances, or navigating legal issues. It's important to approach these challenges with a plan and to seek guidance when needed. Organizations that specialize in helping victims of abuse can provide resources and support tailored to your situation. Knowing that you have options and access to help can make the process less daunting and increase your confidence in taking the necessary steps. Healing from narcissistic abuse is not an overnight process. It's a journey that requires patience, self-compassion, and perseverance. Along the way, there may be moments of doubt or setbacks, but it's important to remember that each step forward is a victory. Surrounding yourself with positive influences, practicing self-care, and celebrating small wins can help you stay motivated and focused on your goals. Freedom is not just about escaping the abuse. It's about creating a life where you feel empowered, valued, and at peace. Ultimately, the path to freedom is about reclaiming your life and choosing to prioritize your well-being. It's about recognizing that you deserve to be treated with respect and kindness and refusing to settle for anything less. While the journey may be challenging, it leads to a place of growth, resilience, and self-discovery. The strength you gain from overcoming narcissistic abuse will serve as a foundation for building a life filled with authenticity, joy, and fulfillment. Reclaiming your power after experiencing narcissistic abuse is a transformative journey that requires resilience, self-reflection, and intentional action. After enduring the manipulation and control of an abuser, it can feel like your sense of identity and strength has been stripped away. However, the power to rebuild your life and reclaim your confidence lies within you, waiting to be rediscovered and nurtured. This process is not easy, but it is profoundly rewarding, leading to a deeper understanding of yourself and a stronger sense of personal agency. The first step in reclaiming your power is acknowledging your worth and affirming that you deserve to live a life free from abuse. Narcissistic abusers often convince their victims that they are unworthy of love, respect, or happiness, planting seeds of self-doubt that take root over time. Challenging these internalized beliefs requires conscious effort, but it's a crucial step in rebuilding your self-esteem. Remind yourself regularly that you are valuable, capable, and deserving of kindness. Positive affirmations, journaling, and self-reflective practices can help reinforce these truths and counteract the negative messages you've internalized. Setting and enforcing boundaries is another essential component of reclaiming your power. Narcissistic abusers thrive on crossing boundaries, using manipulation and control to erode your autonomy. Reestablishing firm limits is a powerful way to regain control over your life. This may mean limiting or cutting off contact with the abuser, refusing to engage in arguments or manipulative tactics, or asserting your right to make decisions for yourself. While setting boundaries can feel uncomfortable at first, especially if you're accustomed to prioritizing the abuser's needs, it is a vital step toward regaining your independence and self-respect. Building a support system is an important part of the healing process. Narcissistic abuse often isolates victims, leaving them feeling alone and disconnected from others. Surrounding yourself with supportive, understanding people who validate your experiences and encourage your growth can make a significant difference. Friends, family, support groups, or therapists can provide the guidance and empathy needed to navigate the challenges of recovery. Sharing your story with others who have faced similar situations can also be empowering, as it helps you realize you are not alone and that healing is possible. Reconnecting with your passions and interests is another powerful way to reclaim your identity and rediscover your joy. Narcissistic abusers often diminish or dismiss the things that bring you happiness, leaving you disconnected from the activities and pursuits that once gave your life meaning. Taking the time to explore your hobbies, try new things, or revisit old interests can reignite your sense of purpose and remind you of who you are outside of the abusive relationship. These moments of self-discovery are acts of self-love, helping you build a life that reflects your true self. Practicing self-care is crucial in the journey of reclaiming your power. Narcissistic abuse often leaves victims feeling emotionally and physically depleted, making it essential to prioritize activities that replenish your energy and nurture your well-being. This might include exercise, meditation, therapy, or simply taking time to rest and recharge. Listening to your body and honoring your needs is an important way to show yourself compassion and rebuild your resilience. Self-care is not selfish. It is a necessary foundation for healing and growth. Another key aspect of reclaiming your power is learning to trust yourself again. Narcissistic abusers often use gaslighting and other manipulative tactics to undermine your confidence in your perceptions and decisions. Rebuilding this trust involves acknowledging your instincts and valuing your judgment. Start small by making decisions for yourself and celebrating the outcomes, even if they're not perfect. Over time, you'll begin to feel more confident in your ability to navigate challenges and trust your intuition. As you move forward, it's important to focus on the future and the possibilities it holds. While the pain of narcissistic abuse may linger, it does not have to define you. Use the lessons you've learned to create a life that aligns with your values and aspirations. Reflect on the strength it took to endure and overcome the abuse, and recognize that this strength is a testament to your resilience. By embracing your power and choosing to prioritize your well-being, you can build a future filled with freedom, authenticity, and joy. Reclaiming your power is a process that requires time and effort, but it is a journey worth taking. Each step you take toward healing and self-discovery brings you closer to a life of empowerment and fulfillment. The challenges you faced have shaped you, but they do not define you. By choosing to reclaim your power, you are making a powerful statement that you are worthy of love, respect, and happiness, and that you have the strength to create a life that reflects your true potential.